Testing, testing. Okay. Good evening, everyone. The time is now 6:06. The Board of Education will now reconvene in open session. Roll call.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Here.
Mr. Lara,
Here.
Ms. Cabral,
Here.
Mrs. Cordero,
Here.
Mr. Valencia.
Present. Item A, report from closed session. Do we have a report out from closed session, Dr. McDuffie?
Yes, we do. For item A, we have the Board of Education accepting the administrative appointment of Maria Miramontes, Coordinator of Family and Community Engagement. The roll call was as follows: John Hollinshead, aye. Ricardo Valencia, abstain. Linda Cordero, aye. Luz Maria Cabral, aye. Ricky Lara, aye. The Board of Education accepted the administrative appointment of Amber Waltz, Coordinator of Special Education. The roll call vote was unanimous. That's all I have.
For items B, C, D, and E, information was shared. For item E, direction was given to real property negotiators. Item B, introduction of interpreters. Tonight's interpreters are Cesar Ruiz and Sandra Carranza. Greeting and support this evening is provided by Benji Alfaro. Item C, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hollinshead, would you mind leading us in pledge?
If everybody would stand, please, thank you. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 8, public comment period, open session. The public comments are intended for members of the public to address the Board of Education on items involving the school district. Such testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each, 450 words per person subject, and 15 minutes total for each topic. If an answer to a specific question is requested, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. This is just a reminder to all speakers and presenters to please be mindful when speaking at the podium and not speak too quickly so that our interpreters can increase accuracy and keep pace with our Spanish and Mixtec speaking audience. Do we have any non-agenda public comments this evening, Dr. McDuffie?
No, we do not.
Okay. And do we have any public comments for agendized items this evening?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. Item 9, approval of agenda as presented. Dr. McDuffie, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
No, we don't.
That being that there's no changes, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? It is moved by Ms. Cabral and seconded by Ms. Cordero to approve the agenda. Roll call.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 10, consent items. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are consistent with adopted policies and approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. They will be acted upon by roll call vote in one motion without discussion unless a member of the board requests an item be pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be voted on separately. May I have a motion to approve the consent items?
Mr. Valencia,
Yes.
a point of clarification,
Yes.
point of order.
Yes.
The board policies contained within the consent agenda are all first read items.
Okay.
And so I wanted to clarify how we would engage in making comment on that so that when it's brought back for second read and consent, then we can feel comfortable voting for it or having read those changes.
Oh, so it can be pulled, correct? Either today or for the next board meeting?
No, we can.
Pull it right now?
So we can have any comments or questions on those.
Okay.
Well, that was my point of order was do we pull them to make those comments or do we write them and then have them?
Yeah,
I want to do it the right way and
I think for the record, in regards to revisions and transparency, that we pull the board policies from the consent and then talk about any changes or revisions that we want to make to those board policies, and then bring them back for a second read.
Okay. So I would make those, it would be 3550 food service child nutrition program.
Actually, I think you would have to pull all the board policies.
All of them? Okay, I'll
So-
pull them all. So then I'll just address the initial one. Okay,
Okay,
are the ones that want to mix?
so then that being it, I believe I need to go to, so may I have, so is there a motion to, approve the, agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
And I will second.
It is moved by Mr. Hollinshead and seconded by Ms. Cordero to approve the consent items as amended, or to pull them, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia,
Aye. Motion passes. Item 11, action items. Item A, Resolution 24-21, approving the absences of board members from meetings of the Board of Education. Dr. McDuffie.
Thank you, President Valencia. The attached resolution must be adopted in order to compensate board members for absences from board meetings to perform services outside the meeting for the district. If the board member was ill or on jury duty, or the absence was due to a hardship deemed acceptable by the board.
Are there any further questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 24-01, approving the absences of board members from meetings of the Board of Education.
I'll second.
It is moved by Ms. Cordero and seconded by Mr. Lara that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 24-01, approving the absences of board members from meetings of the Board of Education as presented. Roll call.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia,
Aye. Motion passes. Item B, Resolution 24-02, approving the absences of board members from meetings of the Board of Education. Dr. McDuffie.
Yes, this resolution is similar to the first, exactly as the first. For board members who were ill, on jury duty, or absent due to hardship deemed acceptable by the board, this is in order to compensate them.
Are there any further questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 24-02, approving the absence of board members from meetings of the Board of Education as presented.
And I'll second.
It is moved by Mr. Lara and seconded by Ms. Cordero that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 24-02, approving the absences of board members from meetings of the Board of Education as presented. Roll call.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral, Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia,
Aye. Motion passes. Item C, Arts and Music in Schools Annual Report. Ms. Grok.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I need a clicker here. Got it. On November 8th, 2022, California voters approved Proposition 28, the Arts and Music in Schools, or AMS, Funding Guarantee and Accountability Act. The measure required the state to establish a new ongoing program supporting arts instruction in school beginning in 2023-2024. Last school year, this was our first allocation of the AMS funds. And tonight I bring to you the report that is required annually by the CDE in relation to these funds. So the total funding allocation for SMBSD in 23-24 was $2,959,814. Because it was our first year, we did not fully expend these funds, but they do roll over for 3 years total. Local education agencies with 500 or more students are required to ensure that at least 80% of the AMS funds be expended to employ certificated or classified employees of the district to provide arts education program instruction. The remaining funds must be used for training, supplies, materials, and arts education partnership programs, with no more than 1% of the funds received to be used for an LEA's administrative expenses. So I'm happy to report that using our board-adopted 2022 to 2027 Visual and Performing Arts Plan as a guide, we were able to provide 2 VAPA specialists in music in the 23-24 school year, as well as access to several VAPA experiences. These expenditures allowed us to meet the focus areas identified in the VAPA Master Plan for SMBSD, including Focus Area 1, access to the arts. Students had access to music lessons, field trips, and art showcases. Focus Area 2, essential resources. This consists of personnel and student work display areas. And Focus Area 4, professional development for our specialists. Since 23-24 was the first apportionment, we were limited in our ability to provide credentialed staff. We used the first year to expand our ability to provide music lessons in 3rd grade and beginning and advanced band in 4th, 5th, and 6th grades by hiring 2 VAPA music specialists, which represented an impact on 703 students. We also provided access to the arts for over 3,800 students in the form of field trips to performances including Elf the Musical, North the Musical, Body Traffic, the Santa Maria Philharmonic, Ladysmith Black Mambazo, the U.S. Army Band and Choir, and the Santa Maria Civic Theater. We were also able to host a junior high art show. We spent $0 on administrative expenses. We look forward to expanding these offerings and increasing access to the arts in the 24-25 school year. We have met the funding obligation and restrictions for our AMS funds for the 23-24 fiscal year, and so I respectfully request that the board approve the Arts and Music in Schools annual report as presented.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Yeah, Mr. Hansen.
Hi, Mrs. Crock.
Good evening.
So we're gonna go ahead and improve this stuff. This will be awesome. But will we get then a report soon on what the projected goals or for spending are for the upcoming school year and what the designations are for using those funds so that we don't continue to not use them and roll them over?
Yes. So as you know, the board approved the 5 job descriptions so that we could begin recruiting those employees. We are happy and excited to report that we have hired 9 VAPA specialists who will begin in August. And so we will bring to you annually this report that includes how many staff members we employed and what our funding was. If you would like a more robust VAPA master plan progress report, you could certainly work with Dr. McDuffie to schedule that, or I could provide that to you in a board report as you wish.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it would be great to kind of get that, just see where that's going. It doesn't have to be, I don't think, a special report here. It could be something in the weekly report or as that goes along with what you're doing, so we don't add to what you do.
Absolutely. So we already have a plan in regards to our VAPA specialists, and I think it'd be great to be able to not only for you to approve all the things that happen here, but also to see the fruits of those approvals.
Right. That's to see the fulfillment so that we know what to expect for this thing.
Absolutely. So I'll work with Ms. Grok and Ms. Lo Chung Vu to make sure that we get a report throughout sometime this year to show that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ms. Cordero?
Will we know from year to year what the allocation amount will be, or will it vary?
So it is based on a per student funding based on your unduplicated student count at each school, and then it's amassed into one district run fund. So we get that allocation usually in mid-September of every year. And because we never had an allocation before last year, we never had an annual report either. It is a CDE required presentation to the board every year. So in addition to the allocation at the beginning, we will be coming back to you every July to report to you how many staff members we employed, how much our administrative expense was, whether we made the 80-20 required percentages, and then what we're doing rolling over those funds. So this will be an annual report as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lara, did you have a question?
Just, yeah, real quick, on the music part, is every child having a instrument in their hand now?
Every child in band
In band?
is, yes, we have leveraged multiple funding sources to increase our music inventory. And I believe at this point that every student who wants one gets one at the beginning of the year. Now, if it's damaged and needs repair, we may not have a replacement right away for them. But yes, every student in the program is being offered an instrument.
Ms. Cabral?
And for the next academic year, are we expanding to other visual arts?
Yes. So one of the real difficulties across the state with this Prop 28 money was that you had to spend it on employees and nobody had job descriptions for those employees. So you may recall that the work of the VAPA advisory team last year was to finish the plan, a 5-year plan going through 2027. And then our next big task was job descriptions. So we have created all 5 of the job descriptions for the 5 domains. And we flew 4 of those 5. The one that we did not fly is the VAPA specialist for digital arts. And the reason for that is because the CDE hasn't figured out the credentialing for that yet. So even if we found someone, we wouldn't be able to credential them and employ them. So we flew the 4 domains and hired 9. So they're not all music. So we have music, theater, visual arts, and dance. And so all of our kids to start with next year in 1st through 6th grade at 9 of our schools will be getting all 4 of those domains through the year. And then we look to expand again in the spring and then hopefully to full implementation by August of 2025.
A question that I have is, are we monitoring how well the experiences our young people are having in the arts, music, reflective of the diversity of our student population as well as the state? And so we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, right, that says we value the representation of our students. We know academically our students will thrive, right, when they see themselves as well as learn about other cultures. And so I'm happy to see that they're going to the Philharmonic, that they're going to plays. But I also think it's really essential to, make sure that those plays and those band songs reflect, the diversity of our state. So are we monitoring that? And if not, I definitely want to encourage the district to do so, because I want to make sure that our young people get the full spectrum of the arts that reflect them and others.
We absolutely are. We have really developed some great partnerships with the fine arts community around us. So when offerings are made by PCPA or by SLO or Cal Poly, we get invited to those, and we definitely make sure that we prioritize those that are culturally relevant to our students. And then as we move forward with the VAPA team, the VAPA specialist team of 9, one of the things that we will task them with in this coming year as they work through curriculum and implementation of the plan will be to identify opportunities for culturally relevant instruction.
Excellent. And part of what also for me was an example of that here locally is our PCPA. And they do wonderful work. I had the privilege to see the performance in Solvang. I think it was the Little Shop of Horrors performance that just happened recently. And, approximately half of the staff that were in the play were people of color. Particularly, I saw a strong representation of African Americans and Black actors. And so that for me was like, wow, that was, if our students didn't get a chance to see it, that was like a missed opportunity, right? In terms of the band, for example, right, the songs that they play, right, are they playing songs by artists like Santana and Stevie Wonder? Because I remember when I was in school, I didn't see or hear that level of representation. But I'm excited to see that our district is going to be monitoring that and making sure that that takes place.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion?
I'll go ahead and move that the Board of Education approve the Arts and Music in Schools Annual Report as presented.
Second.
It is moved by Ms. Cabral and seconded by Ms. Cordero that the Board of Education approve the Arts and Music in Schools Annual Report as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, Orenda Think Together contract for 2024-25 school year. Ms. Lo Chungu.
Good evening, Board President Valencia and board members. Good to be with you again. I know we spent an hour together earlier, but I am here this evening to bring forth the Orenda contract. It is a new contract with Orenda for the amount listed in the slide. Starting this August, Orenda will lead a baseline studies here in partnership with San Maria Bonita. The baseline study will help us understand the systems, the conditions that are producing the current outcomes for our students academically, with the hope of discovering hidden barriers, artificial barriers that may be in the way of students accessing resources, accessing their learning in the classroom or across the system, and also uncovering successes that are happening at other sites that we can learn from, and how do we then replicate that at our other sites. At the end of the study, our hope is that there will be recommendations and help us understand what's working, what's not working, what do we need to sunset, what do we need to expand. But those recommendations for action steps that we may need to take system-wide, it might be at the individual site level. Ultimately, this baseline study is going to answer the 3 questions listed up on here. What is the current student success profile? What systems best explain the student success profile? What can be done to accelerate student success? Through the study, we will be gathering anecdotal data from the voices of our students, our families, our classified, as well as our certificated staff, our administrators at the site level. So really looking at comprehensive voices that will show up in this study, along with many of our quantitative data that our students are tested annually. So looking at trends across the last 5 years to help us see where those gaps are and systems and barriers that are in place to help us move forward here in San Maria Bonita. And so with that, are there any questions for me?
Mr. Hollinshead, do you have a question?
Yeah, not so much a question, just a comment. In reading through, the presentation was very comprehensive and fulfilled, I think, a lot of our questions prior to being in here. But and the structure of it was given to us, and one of the things was the front-loading sessions. And in reading through that, I had one qualifying caution or thought, and it was mentioned, or the front-loading sessions may include educational partners, including office team members and teacher union representatives. I would caution against saying union in there, because I feel like that stifles voices, and we're trying to get as many voices as we can. And there's definitely any place that has a union, there's a feeling that if you're speaking or only speaking to either union members or union approved members or people who are in the same thought
Mhm.
process as, that will stifle the willingness or the freedom that people feel to express their views. So I would caution against making that a primary focus.
For sure.
And I apologize if I offend any of the teachers that are that feel strongly about that,
Mhm.
but I know a lot more teachers that feel that their voice is not always heard.
Right.
So I think that if we're trying to be really inclusive,
Mhm.
then we might want to kind of steer away from the use of that.
The use of the union. Yes.
Yeah. Or specificity of it.
Thank you.
Ms. Cordero?
This is purely a technical question. In the contract that is included in our agenda,
Mhm.
It says June 10th.
What page are you looking at?
Should it be July 10th? Since that's today
It,
on the first page of the,
So it's page
I-
120 on our
yes.
packet.
so this is when I received the contract, but June 10th. So technicality there, yes. So it was when I received the contract.
okay. Like I said, it really
No
doesn't
worries.
make any big difference, but just in case.
Yes. There could be some confusion there.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Should the public be interested in seeing the presentation, I highly recommend it because that is where, we heard the presentation,
Mhm.
which took about at least an hour, and then where the board was able to ask some more questions and comments. So I definitely encourage folks, the public to do so. Mr. Hollinshead?
I'm sorry, I have one more question for the Orenda
Yeah.
group. Are the modules or the interactive pieces on your website, will those be helpful to us to interact with? Or when I went on your website, there are places where we can go and like take tests or something like, I think that was what I recall, or
I
look
think you're
through.
talking about the components that we've added to our website, maybe related to the book that was recently
Oh, yeah,
published.
maybe that's what it
And
was.
so
Will
those
that be
are some
helpful?
interactive portions to that complement the readings for each chapter. You're more than welcome to go through that. I'm happy to provide you with a complimentary copy of the publication if you want to read through some of that and then engage in some of the activities online.
And
You're welcome.
would that enlighten us to more what the thought process is behind?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It would
cool.
enlighten you more to our approach and sort of our methodology to
Okay.
the site.
Awesome,
Okay.
thank you.
So I will work with Orenda to get that resource to you.
Awesome.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education ratify the agreement with Orenda Think Together as presented.
And I'll second.
It is moved by Ms. Cordero and seconded by Ms. Cabral that the Board of Education ratify the agreement with Orenda Think Together as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, discussion items. I believe we have none for this evening. Okay, item 13, new business.
Now we have to get back to the board policies.
Oh, do we have to go back to the board policies now?
Mhm.
Okay. And so,
Starts on page 23.
start on which page are we on, John?
41.
For our massive audience at home, policy 3550, food service child nutrition program. Page 41. I was happy. I talked to Dr. McDuffie. I was actually looking at 3551 and didn't see anything about age appropriate portions. But I also wanted to consider a statement in limiting waste of organic and inorganic materials, another limitation of waste. Or materials from, so that would be inclusive of packaging and those things.
Okay, I'm not following. You want to add that to it?
Correct, correct.
Okay,
Are you referring to 3550 or did you go to
3550.
3550?
3550.
Okay.
Knowing my luck, that'll be in 3551.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's more appropriate to be in 3551 as operations, food service
Okay.
operations. But I'm not sure. We can just take I have that information.
Can you ask maybe the new director of food services where they would consider it to be the most appropriate?
That's exactly what we'll do. We'll take that information and Ms. Goins will hook it up, so to speak.
She can advise.
Right.
Well played.
Okay.
okay, I also,
I'm moving on. 3551, in light of some of the discussions that Mr. Valencia has made about school gardens and interaction with local producers. I just wanted to know if there needs to be any kind of discussion around site produced or site grown.
We do have page 42, the very top it says district schools are encouraged to establish school gardens and or farm. So it's already in
Yay.
in this one.
See how I go? I went to the wrong.
Yeah, I anticipated that.
You knew exactly where I was going.
I want to also point out that in the second line, vegetables for school meals positively impact it. The "and" to is stricken out, but I think it should read vegetables for school meals to positively impact students' knowledge.
Ooh,
Duly noted.
4th of July
All
continues.
right, do we need a motion to approve those amendments?
Oh, I'm still going.
Okay. Oh, yeah, just asking for
Point two.
clarification. Sure. So let's go, back to you, John, and then we'll go back to you, Ms. Cordero.
Oh, yeah. I'm just, so if we could move back to page 37, policy 0.7 firearms in school grounds. I wanted a point of clarification that, include that it's explicitly stated that, staff and faculty are to not possess firearms on school grounds.
Duly noted. We'll look at being more explicit with that language.
Was there anything else, Mr. Hollinshead, that you wanted to add?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that important feedback. Ms. Cordero, was there something else you wanted to?
Okay, back on page, it's superintendent recruitment and selection, policy 2120. It starts on 27.
Could you show us the board packet page number? The board pack, what page are you on?
27. It's actually at the top of the page 28. In the third paragraph is one sentence. And it's been stricken out, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't keep it. It says, as necessary, the board may appoint an interim superintendent to manage the district during the selection process.
Sorry, where's?
Yeah, here on 20.
Oh,
And Mrs. Cordero, it sounds to me like you're referring to some of the instances we've already experienced where that was
What we did.
we did
So
what we did and was necessary.
You're saying to keep, are you wanting to keep
I
that language?
I think it should be there.
And I would agree with that, of keeping that unless somewhere in this, policy, it already, indicates that.
Yeah, what
I did not see anything else, and I read through them very thoroughly.
I'll take a look at that because usually the board updates from CSBA are pretty thorough in regards to that. So I'll see if there's any reason why it was not put in there as well. But we'll look to put that in there unless there's some reason why it isn't, or if it's in another board policy, which it shouldn't.
Any other points related to this item?
I don't have any other points other than there were a couple of places where it was an inaccurate word. In one of them, it says designer instead of designee. And those kinds of things which I marked, but do not change the meaning of anything. So I'd be happy to share that with whomever would like to look. I'm getting paid as the proofreader. Just so you all know. That's it.
All right. So, move to approve the first reading of board policy. Is that correct, Mr.?
That's what you're going to entertain on most.
Okay, excellent. So, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the first reading of board policy.
I'll
I'll
make
move.
that motion.
I'll second it. It is moved by Ms. Cordero and seconded by Mr. Hollinshead. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, that's a great question. That's a great question.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia.
Aye. Motion carries. We are now back to item number 13, new business. Is there any new business items before the board? Anything for you, Mr. Hollinshead? Okay. All right. Moving on to item 14, board and superintendent reports. Anything for you, Mr. Hollinshead?
No. Just I hope everybody's enjoying their summer vacation, their breaks. I hope everybody in this room gets some measure of reprieve from this place of employment, your place of employment, and enjoys a thoroughly relaxing time. You all deserve it and are very much appreciated for all that you do. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hollinshead. Anything for you, Mr. Lara?
No.
Okay. Ms. Cabral? Ms. Cordero?
Well, in my spare time, have just been driving around looking at the projects going on at our different school sites. And I see quite a few that have the stands up and the eaves to place the solar panels on. I'm just waiting to see those solar panels. A lot going on. And I did, even though this is the first week of migrant summer school, I did take an opportunity today to stop by and see 450-ish students in TK through 8th grade at Sanchez, and some very interesting activities and in the cafeteria, on the playground, in the classrooms. So it's enjoyable to see our students that are coming via 8 different bus routes. So, and we are all invited to stop and visit at any time. It's very interesting. And
It's being held at
Sanchez, yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. I also would like to just, I concur with Mr. Hollinshead that I want all of our staff to have a restful summer. I know that that's hard for those of us that are in the education world, us included as board members. We're also still working. But nonetheless, I do think it is essential to learn how to take a break and how to rest. I recently saw some social media posts talking about hustle culture and this kind of idea that you always have to be on the grind and always working. And I get it. Part of that is survival. I grew up that way. If you didn't work, you didn't eat, and that's a very harsh reality for many of us. However, I do think that can also be very toxic, that mentality, because it doesn't encourage our humanity, just to be human beings and to spend time with our friends, with our family. So I hope that all of our staff are able to take the time to do so. And I also wanted to invite our staff, or not just our staff, but our community. I saw in the paper as I was reading about the fair that's taking place starting today here in our community in Santa Maria. There's a group of women-led mariachis. I believe they're called Mariachi Divas, something like that. I've had the privilege of seeing them before in Guadalupe. It's all women-led, women of color-led, I believe predominantly Latina, but I do believe sometimes they incorporate other cultures. And I think it's a really great example because it challenges the stereotype that mariachi is a genre that's only for men, even though the genre tends to be dominated by men. And I believe they're going to be performing either Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, assuming that the fair goes that long. But I would check the paper for times and dates and all that. But there's a great opportunity to see some Grammy Award-winning music, and that connects very well to what we were just discussing earlier in terms of the arts and the music. And that's what I mean by that representation, right? Our young people should see that they can pursue the arts and challenge stereotypes. And that concludes my board comments.
Well, thank you very much, President Valencia. Ms. Cordero, you stole a lot of my thunder when talking about summer school and also special ed extended year summer program started July 26th. I'd like to really talk about this Sunday. This Sunday, 40 of our migrant program migrant students. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm reading. This Sunday, 40 of our migrant programs recently promoted eighth grade students will travel to Washington, D.C. Awesome, right? Migrant Director Eduardo Pantin and Director of Multilingual Services Tammy Castillo-Schiffer will accompany students along with other district chaperones. They'll join hundreds of others from around the country to participate in a number of learning workshops regarding our country's and government's history, the influence of politics and policy on our lives today, civil rights, the creation of laws, and the importance of civic involvement. They'll also visit government buildings, monuments, historic sites to serve as living classrooms for the students who will complete assignments at each stop. Some of the locations: Supreme Court, White House, Arlington National Cemetery. The goal of the trip is to provide students with the skills and confidence to become informed and active in the governmental process, initially at their schools through leadership opportunities and later in their lives locally and nationally. So the students will be in DC until July 18th. This incredible learning and life experience is provided through our federal migrant funding and state ESSER relief funds. First time we've been to DC since 2019. We started, I believe, in 2012, taking students to DC through this program. So just very excited for them. Make sure, Dr. Castillo-Schiffer, that they have fun.
Dr. McDuffie,
Yes.
as a former resident of the district in Northern Virginia, if you get a chance, Potomac Overlook Park or Great Falls National Park. Lots of great stuff there. I mean, I know you can't do everything, but those are good outings.
Awesome. You mentioned something earlier that caught my attention about unions and making sure that we have a broader perspective and becoming more inclusive. I am excited because we are preparing to do an opening day luncheon when all of our employees are back. And it's really going to be focused around our belief that a unified community inspires hope and faith. And so we're excited about really focusing on that focusing on that belief this year. And we're going to make it happen. There's so many people say, you can't do that. The logistics, there's too many people. You got 2,000 employees. What are you going to do? Blah, 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 blah. We're going to make it happen. And so we plan to have an opening day luncheon, and we plan to continue that new tradition in the future and expand it and adjust as necessary. But I'm excited for that, and you all are invited. You're going to be invited soon.
The impossible can't happen overnight.
Right. And finally, I just want to give a shout out to M&O and all the things that are going on around this district. We have 11 HVAC sites going through and getting the HVAC. 5 schools getting new playgrounds. We got all our sites getting some type of shade structure improvement or shade structures. And as you said, Board Member Cordell, solar canopies are going up at all of our sites as well, along with a myriad of things. So if you see an M&O worker or someone just look like they're painting something or putting up a shade structure, please thank them for us. They're doing a magnificent job, and I just appreciate the work that they're doing.
Sanchez was one of the schools painted. It looks so.
Yes. Yes, if you haven't been past Sanchez, take a look. And that is all I have.
Thank you very much. Item 15, adjournment. The next regular board meeting of the Santa Maria Bonita School District will be held on Wednesday, August 14, 2024. There being no further business before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn? It is moved by Ms. Cordero and seconded by Ms. Cabral to adjourn the meeting.